Subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to get all the latest updates. 21 years ago, the Kargil War became one of the most iconic moments in the history of this country, mostly because it was a war that we were able to telecast straight into the homes of people. Often known as India's first televised conflict, for me personally, it was a great honor and privilege to be able to report that conflict from the front line. I've often described the Kargil War as a masterclass in life. After more than 25 years of being a journalist, if I had to pick one story that transformed me forever, that taught me everything that I am, and that made me who I am as a journalist, I would pick the Kargil War. But despite all the stories we told from the war front, some stories needed a retelling, a revisiting, a greater look, a more in-depth look. In fact, some stories remained untold for the larger mass of the country. One such story was that of Gunjan Saxena, chopper pilot who became the first woman in uniform to actually go into combat duty. Her story now is being told and essayed by Janhvi Kapoor in a movie called Gunjan Saxena, The Kargil Girl. It is my pleasure to welcome on the program today somebody I deeply admire, Gunjan, that heroic chopper pilot, well before there were fighter jet pilots who were women, and that's just happened. There was Gunjan, and we need to know more about her. And it's also my great pleasure to welcome to the program Janhvi Kapoor, who will be playing the role of Gunjan. So welcome to you both. And with Janhvi's permission, I'm going to start with a woman who's the real star for us on this program, and that's you, Gunjan. Because what you've done in life is something that some of us can only dream of doing. Gunjan, let me ask you, was there a point, despite coming from a very progressive family, coming from a father who encouraged you to pursue your dream, you were well ahead of the curve. We've only just had women becoming fighter jet pilots in the Air Force. Was there a point when you felt that the world isn't going to let me do this just because I was born female?
As you said, I came from a progressive family and my father supported me a lot in my dream. But I think the idea of not being able to do, I don't know, somehow just never came to my mind. Yes, I knew at the back of my mind that the defense is not what was open to women at that time, especially for aviation. We did not have any women pilots coming, or that option was just not there. But initially, I think as a child, my dream was more to do with just the pure joy of flying. Is what I was, my dream was, and so this idea that I will never be able to do it, or just didn't never occurred to me. I was just very clear in my mind that I just wanted to fly. I wanted to be, airborne. So that was my basic dream. And coming into the forces, I was very fortunate that it just opened up at the right time for me. I was in college doing my graduation, and I was, somehow trying to get some kind of air experience with the NCC and Civil Flying Club. And I was fortunate that it happened at the right time, and I could just go in for it. And
How old were you when you went to the war front? How old were you?
I was 24.
I was 2 years older than you. I was 2 years older than you, and I was reporting that war. But it's so lovely to meet women who won't take no for an answer. And let me bring Janhvi in at this point. Janhvi, in some ways, the pressure of playing a real life. Yeah, that's okay, Gunjan. I'm talking to Janhvi. We'll come back to you in a moment. Janhvi, the pressure of playing a real life person, a real life hero, someone who actually did all of this in life. And you're an actor, but this you're playing like a wartime pilot. First, talk a little bit about the kind of burden of performance, in a sense, that created on you and your life, and what playing Gunjan meant for you.
The thing is, I always felt like if I ever, even for a second, considered it as a burden, or sat down and thought about, how monumental this opportunity is, I would just freeze. But throughout all of my interactions with Gunjan ma'am, I think the sense that I got was that although what she's done is, I think, extremely heroic. Her entire approach to her career, her outlook on life, I don't think she ever set out to be a hero. And I think that's something that resonated with Sharan, the person who, he found Gunjan Ma'am's story and decided to make this film. I think she was just, her entire aim was that she just wanted to live her dream and do what she loved. And I think that's the approach that we took with the film. Of course, it's a huge responsibility considering everything that she's done. And I think the path that she's carved for women in aviation and in, the military and in general. But I think that our approach was that we're trying to tell a simple and an honest story. We need to be as true to it as possible, as true to Gunjan ma'am as possible. And we need to respect her journey and the journey of the Air Force, because I think that it's come a long way.
What about, Janvi, what about the female spirit, in a sense, did this represent to you? As a young woman who may not have had to fight these battles in your own life, but everybody has their personal battles, right? And when you're female, there are barriers every step of the way people look at you, the way people judge you, the way people deconstruct you. There is a gendered lens that the world brings to you. So what about the female spirit as a very young woman did Gunjan represent you?
I think what she represented was, from what I could gauge and from what I could understand from Gunjan ma'am, and I think that even after what she said, it must be very apparent that for her outlook was very simple. If you keep your head down, if you keep working hard, अगर आपकी नीयत सही है, अगर आप ईमानदारी से काम करोगे, then you'll get where you have to get. And she didn't let the construct of society or the gender bias that's instilled in society from ages, she didn't let that play as an obstacle in her own mind. And I don't think she ever victimized herself because of the way the society worked, and she just kept to her work and she worked hard, and I think that was very inspiring for me. And of course, I haven't had to deal with the kind of things that most women have to deal with, because I do come from a slightly more privileged background, and so I've been extremely lucky in the way that I've been treated and the opportunities that I've gotten. So I don't think I have anything to complain about, but hearing her story, being in a simulated environment, when knowing that she's been in probably these real situations, I don't know if I can say it made me sympathize, but it made me come close to what it would have been like. And I think it, of course, broadened my horizon and perspective of what women might be going through. And
So, Gunjan, one of the things that happens to women, and I remember when I wanted to go and cover the war, one of the things, when the army initially did not want me to go, they said, "Kaise jayenge? Bathroom nahi hai, रहने की जगह नहीं है, सोएंगे कहाँ?" And I had to say to them कि जैसे लड़के जाते हैं पत्थर के पीछे, गाड़ी के पीछे, हम भी वही करेंगे. आपको क्यों लगता है कि हमें कोई अलग जगह चाहिए सोने के लिए, रहने के लिए, etc. Right? Now you have spoken about this, that the military imagination does not place women there. So you dealt with this. There were no bathrooms for women. So speak a little bit about these little things that nobody will think of, and they become part of your battle. It never becomes a reason to victimize. It never becomes a reason to say no, but they're part of your battle. So उसके बारे में जरा आप बात करें, Gunjan.
See, I think what Janvi just said, was just bang on, and what you said is also absolutely correct. And the real picture, that these little issues, they do come up, they do crop up, and it's very natural. And there's no separate washroom for you, change करने के लिए जगह नहीं है, how do you cope up with the environment? These are very, very real problems that just did crop up with me. And as you said that even my approach was exactly same, that these are very minor things which I don't think so will any way hamper or shift my focus from my duty. I'm going to do my duty and my work to the best of my ability, and these things will be settled. Yes, there were minor issues that came up, and but it was a very real thing, and it wasn't something that I was not prepared for or I wasn't expecting. because but I think what helped me throughout my journey was that I just took everything in my stride, and I just kept my focus very clear that I had to learn, do my job well, learn my profession well, and that is where my focus was, I think, and that is what helped me.
What was the
Um
Can I ask you something, Gunjan, before I bring Janvi back? As women and as women who do well in life, we don't actually want to be known as a woman journalist, a female actor, a woman pilot. We just want to be known at what we do: an actor, a journalist,
yes,
a pilot, right? Yet, as we grow older, we realize that a woman has to do things twice as hard to get to the same point as a man. So, whether it's in the industry where women don't get paid the same, whether it's in journalism where, by the way, women do not get paid the same, or whether it's in aviation or the military where you are still dealing with short service commission. You don't have actually full service. You don't have women in the infantry. You still don't have women in combat forward posts, etc. Do you now think of yourself as a woman who broke barriers, or do you think of yourself as a gender neutral cheetah pilot?
I think I would take a gender neutral cheetah pilot, because I think that is what my approach was always, and that is what helped me break whatever gender bias, if it was there. I think that is what helped me break it, and I still believe in it, and I do say it wherever I can, that only when you in your own mind and are very clear about it, that you are there as what? You're there as an officer, as an aviator, as a pilot, or you're there as a woman pilot. It has to be first clear in your own mind, and only then you're going to perform, and then the acceptance is so much more easier for your peer group, because it just comes very naturally after that, because your performance just shows what you believe in. So
But
I
it's
think I would pick yeah.
the last, yeah. But Janvi, it's confusing, right? Because I think a lot of us of a certain generation, like a couple of generations ahead of you, Janvi, we disowned our gender, right? We wanted to be known just on the pure basis of the work we did. But we disowned our gender, but the world did not disown our gender. The world added to our battles. The world made it tougher for us. So I just want to understand from you how you prepared for this role. There's this movie Sully, which I'm sure you've seen, which is about this landing in New York by this amazing pilot. And when Tom Hanks was preparing for it, he sat in the simulator for hours on end. And I know that you took this pilot training quite seriously. So I know a lot of people would want to know, how did you prepare for simulating the experience of being a chopper pilot in a war zone?
Of course, there was a lot of training, but I think that the main thing on our agenda was Gunjan ma'am and understanding her and her approach. And I still remember, Barkha ma'am, the first time I think I went to meet Gunjan ma'am in Jamnagar. We were sitting and we were talking, and I was like, okay, can you tell me how it was and what you felt and everything that you went through, and it must have been so tough, and what was going through your mind. And literally she was only like, I was just doing my job, and it must have been tough for everyone, it's our job and it's our duty, and I tried to do it as best I could. And and I looked at Sharan and I was like, do we have a story here? Because it seems like everything was fine.
Yeah.
But then I realized that is the essence of who Gunjan ma'am is as a person. Her agenda was never to be a hero. It was never on her agenda to, create this path and all. She was just doing her job. And so once I understood that, I think that even the way that we shot the film, we did the first schedule was when she was at home and she was a child, and then she goes into training. And I had to lose some weight for that portion. So I had a month and a half, and I was doing march pass, I was doing dhava, I was, watching videos about the chopper. I had many conversations with Gunjan ma'am about what it's like to sit in the chopper. We even rode, I came on the chopper with you, I remember. I sat on the chopper with you when I went to Jamnagar. We saw the base. We met with a couple of officers. And then, of course, when I went to Georgia, I actually sat in the chopper with a co-pilot. And, I've been told I'm not allowed to say this, but he let me, right? fly it a little bit. But
I was in fact going to ask you that did you not feel the temptation to learn how to fly?
oh no, I did. He let me. He's like, you can, you spend so many hours in the chopper now, and he explained everything. And I already knew because there were a few sequences in the film where I had to know the technicals and all of those things. So yeah, so I knew, and like I took control for a little bit. But of course, I had a very experienced co-pilot with me, and there was a lot of training. But I really enjoyed it. I felt like there was obstacle course training also, and I know it's not even close to the process that these officers go through when they're doing their training, but it was a glimpse into that world, and I think it was extremely important and just made the whole process seem that much more real for me.
But in a way, Janvi, what you're saying is that you went to meet Gunjan expecting to meet this, battle-hardy woman who talked about her dramatic life journey, and she was like just matter of fact about it, right?
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing? But that's how it was, and I found that so refreshing and so endearing because she was just like, Janvi, I just wanted to fly, and I knew if I worked hard, I could do it, and it was as simple. I mean, of course, it wasn't simple at all, but just to know that a person has that kind of clarity in their head, and how I think pure her intention was from the start. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, Barkha ma'am, even with you, I don't know if like your agenda was ever, I'm going to be the first, women journalist. Exactly. So I don't think anyone who does something that is of such monumental value sets out to do it to set an example. I think they do it for reasons that are more personal and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you just pursue your passion. And by the way, please call me Barkha. I mean, I know 2 generations ahead of you. Of course you can. But Gunjan, I think Janvi makes an important point. Like even for me, reporting the war was just like I couldn't sleep at night if I couldn't go to the war front. And that's what's defined. Even in this COVID pandemic, I've been on the road now for like 120 days reporting the story because it's just something that comes from inside me. It's not about the gender. But like I told you, the world will not let us forget our gender. We may not remember it. But dunya yaad dilati hai. Ma'am, you had to leave being a military officer in 7 years because you're a woman. So aap jitna marzi keh dein that it was not a factor. If you were a man, you could have served for much longer.
Yes, Barkha, I would never deny that. And, that is what I say that the fact that you are a female, the world will not let you forget it, and you don't need to forget it either, And that is why I say that it is going to be there. It is going to be there. You can't, just say that it would vanish one fine day. What you have to learn is that you have to deal with it, and along with that, not let your focus shift. That was the way I led, my life and my career, that it is going to be there, and I accepted it. And as I said, that if your own belief in your own self is very clear, to some extent you can, sort of make this gender bias fade away, because it is a very real thing. And just to expect, that मैं फौज में हूँ, मैं Air Force में हूँ, तो I am an officer. Yes, deep down I believe that I am there as a pilot, as an officer. But the people around me, they're not aliens. They are from this very society, they're where we are coming from. So to expect that they would not have it, that, they would not look at you as a female is very unreal, approach. So you need to have a very realistic approach. And when you see that different outlook, or you see that different perspective with which they look at you, you just have to accept it, take it in your stride, and then do your best to make them realize, Yeah.
I mean, I would differ with you slightly. I don't think we have to accept it. I think we can fight it, but everyone has different ways of fighting it. Gunjan, I want to ask you something. What was the toughest thing for you to be at the war front? Now, just to remind those who are too young, don't remember the war, this was a mountain war. This is Pakistanis sitting on our territory on mountain peaks, sometimes as high as 18,000 feet. While our infantry is climbing up on 3 flanks, our Air Force is bombing the peaks, trying to soften them for the approach that our men are making. But you also had to provide supplies and evacuate injured bodies, right? You had to evacuate injured bodies. There were field hospitals. Sometimes there were just makeshift helipads. There were no proper strips for landing. So what was the toughest thing for you when you look back? What really spooked you, if anything, did?
Uh, as you mentioned, it was a tough terrain to fly in. I would talk as an aviator because it was equally tough or maybe more tough for the army. But as an aviator there, it was a tough terrain to fly. And as you said that I had been flying in that terrain, in that area before these Kargil operations. It was a familiar area for me, area of operations. But at the same time, what the routes or the helipads that we were using earlier were no longer available to us. We had to fly with a different technique so that we are clear of their, whatever firing that was there from the Pakistani side. So I had to learn those new techniques. I was still very young and very junior in service. So, what I had never been into actual operations before. So the flying techniques were new to me. Obviously, I had the senior pilots with me, flying with me, who were there to teach me those techniques. And landing on unprepared or makeshift helipads where you couldn't really, do that copybook kind of approach, which you would in ideal situations do. So how to go about it, landing at makeshift helipads, keeping safety in mind, and at the same time, staying out of line of sight of the enemy. So those were the techniques that I had to learn for. It was extremely challenging, extremely exciting. And I think every sortie that I flew there, every single day was, a major learning experience for me. And plus, the situation there at that time, it was changing not only every day but every hour.
Yeah.
So it was also exciting. We used to take off from Srinagar, go and land at the Kargil airstrip, which was again, not the regular airstrip which we were using earlier. We had to land at that airstrip and go in there for our, army intelligence briefing. They used to brief us with the latest, whatever changes have happened over the last night. So it was all so exciting, so challenging. And I think it is a memory that, will always stay with me.
Janvi, I want to ask you a kind of intergenerational question. I find myself often arguing with young girls, if I can say girl, and I don't mean it in a patronizing way, just for how old I am, your age. And sometimes the things that really matter to, let's say, mine and Gunjan's generation don't matter to them because they're not battles or struggles that they've had to fight, right? And I always say, look, my mother's generation made my battles easier. My generation will make your generation's battles easier. What are the kind of feminist issues that really occupy your generation? What are the battles? I know you've already said you come from privilege. You've not had to deal with the hardships that a lot of millions of ordinary Indian women have to deal with. But when you sit around among friends and you talk about sexism in your lives, because everybody deals with sexism at different levels, what's the kind of casual sexism that your generation has to deal with?
There's a sequence in the film which is actually something that I've related to, and I didn't realize that it was happening because I just kind of felt, it was weird because even in my head I kind of accepted it as, oh, it's normal or it's fine. A lot of times in meetings and in narrations when sometimes there's a co-actor that's a male co-actor, sometimes the director or the writer, when they're narrating or discussing scenes that include both of you, they tend to pay more attention, or they tend to look like the eye contact is towards him more than towards you. And in my head, I was just like, he has the longer role, or maybe the scene is like that, or maybe, but then I realized that maybe it's just like some sort of subliminal conditioning that's making them do that. And there's actually a sequence in our film that Gunjan ma'am's getting briefed and a similar thing happens with her. So yeah, I mean, see, I can't pretend like I've had major struggles with, gender inequality, not because I haven't been privy to that. And I'm extremely fortunate, I understand, because I know that there are a lot of things that women are still fighting for in this day and age. A lot of rights. I know equal pay is a situation. I know that, but I think generally the way that we are perceived as, I don't know how to put it without sounding weird.
But let me put to you, let me probe you a bit there. You obviously don't have the struggles that millions of ordinary women do. You've acknowledged your privilege, not just in this interview, but in previous interviews, right?
Yes.
But in some ways you represent an industry, or you represent something that can easily be sexist without your knowing so. So for example, I've known women, who used to endorse, let's say, fairness products 20 years ago, and today they
Yes.
won't because they feel like it creates a certain pressure on women to have a certain complexion. I've known women, I mean, I remember Richa Chadha was doing an interview with me saying, I used to be bulimic because I used to think I need a certain body size. So sexism creeps up with all our privilege. Sometimes what we do is casually sexist without even us being aware of it. So I'm just wondering whether as a young woman, you've struggled with some of that. You're in a vanity industry. You're a star. The people expect
Yeah.
you to look a certain way all the time. They expect you to
Yeah,
have a
I
certain
think,
body
yeah.
figure all the time. They want to talk about your looks more than they want to talk about your acting.
Yeah,
All of
there's
that
obviously
happens.
there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of attention that's paid on how we look and how we're presented, and we're, I think, very quickly judged on our appearance, on what we're wearing. And I think that even on social media, sometimes when I go through the kind of comments that say a girl would get for wearing what she wants to wear like it's extreme, and the kind of comments that I get sometimes for going to the gym in a certain outfit, there, like, you can't question someone's character based on what they're wearing. You can't I don't know, call them names, pass certain kind of judgments. So all of that keeps happening, and I think as an industry, there's a lot of attention that's paid on how we look and how we're presented, and people feel like it's okay to say things that might be a little demeaning, that might, like, everyone has an opinion on how you look, and I don't know if the same opinion would apply to a man, or maybe he would feel like it doesn't matter as much. But for a woman, if you're not meeting certain standards of appearance, then everyone has a right to say something, and you need to match up to a certain level of but I hope I'm not sounding like I'm complaining, because I feel like I can't compare this to
I wasn't comparing, obviously not. I preface this by saying that there's no literal comparison.
But this is in our industry, and from what I've faced, this is what's been apparent to me. But obviously there are bigger struggles.
But Gunjan, talk about this casual sexism that Janvi mentions takes place sometimes in the industry when a script is being read, and this happened in your life, where like a senior officer will maybe, while giving instructions, turn around and not make eye contact. This happens with male politicians all the time. When I meet politicians who are men will only look at other men. They will talk to you, but the eye contact will only be with other men. So this happens a lot. So talk about that moment where it happened with you.
Yeah, I think this was a briefing scene that Janvi is talking about. So, as I said, that the gender bias, yes, it was there. Nobody can deny it and should not be denied. But here again, as I said, that it was something that I was somehow prepared for, or I knew it would be there. And when it happened, hearts of heart, I wouldn't say that I didn't feel bad, about it. I did feel that, I'm the person you should be looking to at, and I'm the person you should be explaining or briefing me, but you're not doing that. I'm the captain of this sortie, so I should know. All those things did crop up. But then, what were the options left for me, I would say? One is that, I just sort of, take it on, that, no, sir, why are you not looking at me? And, things like that. But the other option was that, yes, I still understand what I'm supposed to do. And why not do my job well and do it so well and be professionally so competent that next time when the same person is briefing, he is forced to do that to me. And I somehow took this approach that why not force them to brief me next time, because when they know that I'm the one, I'm professionally equally competent, and
you had to work. You had to work twice as hard as your male colleagues. Your male colleagues didn't have to do this, right?
I think Barkha, what I would say that it was a two-way thing. Initially I had to work very hard, because I had to make them accept me and realize that I'm not here because just for that trophy value. I'm here doing my job, and I'm going to do it so well, and I'm going to do equally well as everybody else around me. And after that, I think it sort of became an advantage to me, because their expectations were so low, in the sense that they had so many apprehensions with women officers and women pilots, that when they saw me performing and doing well,
The
and
the other problem with women is that we're much too modest. You're much too modest. You're much too
no,
modest.
Barka, what I'll say,
You don't have to be modest. Look,
no, I'm
men
not being
boast.
modest. What I'm saying is
Men
that's how I
boast
look
and
at
men
it.
brag, and you are like, I thought I'd make my work speak for me. This is the thing
And
with
it did
us.
speak, Barka. I think it did speak. And when it started speaking, I think I'll tell you, something like flying in the combat zone. There were so many male pilots from my unit who were doing exactly the same job that I was doing. But today, the kind of recognition that I've got, how people know about me, there are
Yeah.
people who talk well about me, it is because of my gender, isn't it? So somehow it has, in a way, played to my advantage.
It's not because of your gender. I will correct you on that. It's because you battled your gender. You battled a million things that your male colleagues did not have to. You battled all kinds of sexism. You broke a glass barrier. That is your recognition. Your recognition is not because you're female. See, again, you're undermining yourself. You're undermining, and I'm scolding you because I'm 2.5 years older. You cannot undermine yourself. Now tell me, before I come back to Janvi, what has been the
Yeah.
toughest thing about being female in a war zone or in uniform? Would you want to see women be allowed into combat? I advocate for it very strongly. I would like women, it's happened in Israel, it's happened in the United States of America. We can't keep saying, what if a woman gets taken POW, and have that be the singular reason that we don't allow women into combat roles. I mean, you were in a combat role without it being officially an infantry role. Would you support women in combat, Gunjan? And what personally for you has been the toughest thing about being a woman in uniform?
I think being the toughest part of being a woman in uniform, other than the minor things that, the infrastructure part, because that I think just slowly was taken care of. I think other than that was breaking that mental barrier which people had, that making them accept you as a professional was, I think, the toughest part of being in uniform, and being accepted as an officer, and not being looked at as a woman officer is what I think was the toughest part, and I think the most challenging and exciting part as well. And
would you support women in combat? Would you support
yes,
women?
yeah, coming to that part of your question, 100%, there is no way, because why are you there, in uniform, if you don't want to get into combat?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
you are there, you are being trained for that, you are wearing the uniform for that. So I mean, there has to be no second thoughts about it anyway, and let me tell you, Barka, not only me, I think I haven't come across any woman officer who thinks otherwise. And as far as your question, and this is a very valid question, I think, for the organization and for the country as well. That what if they are taken as POW, and what will happen after that?
It's not my question. I'm saying this is what I'm told all the time.
This is the general thing. Even when I was in service, because I was from the initial few batches, we were asked this question very often, by different people. So I think I never gave that reply, and I never saw any woman officer till date. I've never met anybody who gives that reply that I don't want to get into combat because the fear of becoming a POW is there. The fear of becoming a POW is there for everybody, not only for a woman. It's not as if if a male officer or a warrior is taken as POW, they are treated well. They are certainly not treated well, and that we all know. So it is something.
When you sign up for your job, you sign up for everything that comes with it.
I get commissioned, the day I opt for this uniform, it is there, and I accept it as a part of whatever my profession.
Janvi, let me ask you a last question. What has been the learning, if any, like a kind of life learning from being exposed to somebody like Gunjan, who comes from a regular middle class background, who doesn't have the kind of privileges, in a sense, that you have always been cushioned by, which you've spoken about. And a lot of times, people are harsh. They will judge you harshly, not just for being female. They'll also judge you harshly for being privileged, for being rich, for being the daughter of a film family. All of that is going on in a noisy way all around you. So then you meet somebody ordinary yet extraordinary in the middle of it, right? And how does this experience change you, given all the noise about your privilege that's raging all around you at this moment?
I think it's extremely inspiring, and it made me feel extremely hopeful because I know the noise is extremely loud right now, but it was present even then. And I think it's been something that I've considered my entire life because I know I've been very aware of the privilege that I come from. I know that I have a sort of, for the lack of a better word, a fast track almost into opportunities from because of the background that I come from. But I think what I learned from Gunjan ma'am and this experience especially, and also from my parents and I think my general upbringing, is that it comes down to your work. And more than that, it comes down to the effort that you put in and the hard work that you put in. And I know that because of the privilege that I come from, I've kind of skipped a process that most are subjected to. So even if I work as hard as everyone else, I still don't think that's enough for me. I think that there needs to be much more of an effort to make up for that, to prove that I'm deserving of an opportunity that I don't even think I'm deserving of. But
so you feel guilty about your privilege?
There have been many times that I've been made to feel apologetic, and yeah, there was a full phase where I was like, I definitely don't deserve it, but what am I going to get out of sitting and feeling guilty about it? I should use it to my advantage, and I should feel blessed, and I think it's a sin to have an opportunity the way that I do, opportunities like I do, and to waste it and to not dedicate all of my being to making the best of it that I can, not only for myself, but out of respect, I think, to everyone who feels robbed of opportunities and feels like they are more deserving of it. So I think I need to do it for them. And honestly, I feel like I don't think that people will and should accept me unless I'm extraordinary. Their standards are extremely high, but I think that it's a challenge and it'll motivate me to work that much harder to reach that level. And I just think that it'll be good for my art, so I'll take it as a challenge. And
you're playing an extraordinary woman, so I think that's.
I am, and honestly, Barkha ma'am, her journey has inspired me so much. Like I know getting into this film was when I was going through this whole apologetic phase of no one really thinks that I deserve to be here, but I can't use that as an excuse. She didn't use anything as an excuse, and so the stones that people throw at you, turn them into milestones, is something that I think Sachin Tendulkar said. So
well done. Well done. You see, I'll tell you, I just want to say to our viewers in the end, please go and watch this film for many reasons. Watch it because it's the real life story of a real hero. Watch it because ordinary women do extraordinary things every day. Watch it because you have a young woman sitting here, Janvi, who's acknowledging her privilege and saying, I don't want to sit on my ass doing nothing about it. In the end, you'll judge me on my talent. And if I don't have that talent, you're going to reject me anyway. It doesn't matter whose daughter or son I am. And watch it because it's high time that we wrote scripts for women and around women. And watch it because, well, girls should have good role models. Thank you, Gunjan and Janvi. It's been a pleasure talking to both of you. And I'm looking forward to the movie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.